and welcome to your weekly briefing on SWBN News Watch. I am Chimila Chiki. Thanks for joining us tonight. Our first story looks at the distressing situation facing Christians in Manipur, India. Premier Christian News reported that a Christian tribal leader in Manipur, India, has issued a distressing plea for global support amidst the escalating violence in the troubled northeastern region. The leader, known by his pseudonym Mang, issued a fresh call following the latest attack on the Kuki Christian tribe. Mang asked the world to, quote, help us in whatever way you can to stop the violence. He went on to lament the non-stop attack on tribal Kuki Christians every day since May 3rd. He told Premier Christian News that, quote, a national war for ethnic cleansing was declared in public media for all to see. Mang has since wondered why no one has come forward to protect them or to stop the genocide. In his words, and I quote, why is the world watching us dying helplessly every day? Are we not human beings? End of quote. Also responding to the ongoing situation, the spokesman for the Zomi Students Federation in Manipur, Golan Naluk, told Premier that attacks by Meitei radicals were being carried out with the, quote, collusion of state forces with tribal villagers organizing defense forces to defend themselves. He explained that what they were seeing was a, quote, very strategic attack on churches. The churches are central to the tribal life here in Manipur. Our social life revolves around our churches, which is not just for spiritual well-being, but also forms a very important social institution for our communities. Naluk believes that they are being targeted and attacked because of their Christian identity. In the latest attack on the Kuki tribe, the Times of India reported that fresh violence erupted in Manipur's Imphal after miscreants clashed with the security forces in the valley on June 15th. Mobs set several houses on fire, the officials said. Local authorities also confirmed that a recent attack on the majority Kuki Christian tribe resulted in at least 9 deaths and 10 injuries on June 13th. Manipur, located on the border with Myanmar and governed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Hindu Nationalist Party, the BJP, has become a hotspot of violence. Since the conflict broke out in May, at least 80 lives have been lost, 300 churches have been burnt down, and over 40,000 people displaced. While you pray for the church in Manipur, please stay tuned for our next story. Multiple media sources reported that history was made when an artificial intelligence chatbot took center stage, delivering a sermon to over 300 believers gathered at St. Paul's Church located in Fürth, Bavaria, Germany. The anticipation was palpable as people lined up outside the majestic neo-Gothic building hours before the service even began. They eagerly awaited a glimpse of what AI could accomplish. During the service, the AI chatbot, known as ChatGPT, focused on profound themes such as embracing the present, letting go of the past, finding courage in the face of death, and maintaining faith in Jesus Christ. 4 different AI avatars took turns leading the service and imparting the sermons. One of the AI avatars told the gathered audience that, quote, dear friends, it is my honor to be the first artificial intelligence to address you at this year's convention of Protestants in Germany. This groundbreaking service, attended by over 300 people and lasting for over 40 minutes, was the brainchild of 29-year-old Jonas Simelayan, a theologian and philosopher from the University of Vienna. As part of the biennial German Evangelical Church Congress, a significant religious event attracting tens of thousands of devout Christians, the service tackled pressing issues such as climate change, the war in Ukraine, and the advent of AI. Simelayan told the Associated Press that he conceptualized the service, but in reality, about 98% of it comes from the machine. He explained that he fed the chatbot the slogan, "Now is the time," one of the defining phrases for this year's gathering, and instructed it to develop the sermon based on the theme. He also requested the inclusion of psalms, prayers, and a final blessing. The result? A pretty solid church service, Simalayan remarked. However, not everyone was fully convinced by this futuristic endeavor. Hadaral Schmidt, an IT worker attending the service, explained that, quote, "There was no heart and no soul. The avatars showed no emotions, lacked body language, and spoke so rapidly and monotonously that it was challenging for me to concentrate," end of quote. Even Simalayan himself acknowledged that technology lacks the personal touch that distinguishes human connection. He highlighted the role of a pastor who knows their congregation intimately, sharing in their joys and sorrows. That's something AI cannot replicate. Simalayan further admitted that the pastor lives among the congregation, accompanies them through life's journey, and has a deep understanding of their needs. Artificial intelligence simply cannot achieve that. It doesn't know the congregation. While there is a consensus among some clergies that AI can produce a competent sermon, it falls short in capturing the passion and depth of genuine preaching. As AI like ChatGPT continues to make headlines, it is clear that technology remains a powerful tool, but it cannot replace the essence of human connection. Stay with us for our next story. Our next story is about another event surrounding artificial intelligence. A top official from the World Economic Forum is suggesting the use of artificial intelligence to rewrite religious scripture, aiming to create globalized new Bible. In the controversial statement, Yuval Noah Harari, a senior advisor to the World Economic Forum, advocated for the use of AIs to replace traditional religious texts, aiming to establish unified and correct religions. Harari, a highly influential author and professor, made these remarks during a talk on the future of humanity. According to Harari, the power of AI can be harnessed to reshape spirituality, aligning it with the World Economic Forum's globalist vision of equity and inclusivity. During an interview with journalist Pedro Pinto in Lisbon, Portugal, Harari shared his perspective with an audience of elites. He told Pinto that, quote, "AI is the first technology ever capable of generating new ideas. Previous inventions like the printing press, radio, and television served to broadcast and spread ideas conceived by the human brain, but they could not create new ideas themselves," end of quote. Harari pointed out that while Gutenberg's printing press reproduced countless copies of the Bible in the 15th century, it did not generate a single new page. However, he believes that AI has the potential to break this barrier and introduce fresh perspectives to religious scripture. This proposal raises questions about the future of faith and spirituality in an advancing technological world. Critics argue that religious texts hold profound historical and cultural significance, embodying the beliefs and traditions of millions worldwide. One religious scholar explained that some religious scripture are the product of centuries of spiritual wisdom, human experiences, and divine inspiration. Rewriting them with AI would disregard the richness and complexities they encompass. As Harari's call sparks debate, it remains to be seen whether religious communities will embrace or reject it as an infringement upon their sacred traditions. This proposal highlights the ongoing intersection between technology and spirituality, raising profound questions about the nature of religious expression in the digital age. Please stay tuned for our next story. Our next and final story looks at the proposed Global Digital Compact. In a recent development, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres proposed a Global Digital Compact, GDC, aimed at combating, quote, hate and lies on the internet. According to a report by the Epoch Times, Guterres called for sweeping international laws to address the proliferation of harmful content in the digital space. In a tweet announcing the compact, he emphasized emphasized the urgent need for clear and coordinated global action to tackle these grave global threats. The UN policy brief released on June 12 outlines the objective of handing control of the internet to international bodies as part of the UN's 2030 agenda. Guterres also referenced another UN brief called Information and Integrity on Digital Platforms, IIDP, which will serve as a guide for coordinating global efforts against hate speech and disinformation. Guterres stressed that the internet is being misused to deny science, spread disinformation, and promote hate to billions of people. The GDC aims to bridge the digital divide across regions, gender, income, language, and age groups in terms of internet access. It raises concerns about the inequality in internet usage, revealing that while 89% of people in Europe are online, only 21% of women in low-income countries have internet access. The brief attributes rising inequality to the lack of investment in public education and infrastructure, despite the significant gains in productivity and value brought about by digital technology. The GDC identifies hate speech, disinformation, malicious hackers, criminal activities, authoritarian state controls, and predatory business models as serious risks to human rights. It calls for the development of robust accountability criteria and standards for digital platforms and users to address harmful online content. These proposals have raised concerns among advocates of freedom of speech, particularly in countries with a long-standing tradition of free debate and expression. Critics worry that countries with state-controlled media such as China could exploit the UN's panel on online censorship to suppress opposition to their views and policies globally. Moreover, the UN policy brief also condemns any criticism of international climate change policy, considering it a settled science. Additionally, the report suggests banning online disinformation during key elections to protect public trust in electoral institutions. However, the proposal could potentially interfere with the internal politics of sovereign states, particularly during ongoing debates about past elections such as the 2020 and 2022 U.S. elections. As part of the proposed measures, the UN suggests the establishment of a digital code of conduct outlining rules without specifying enforcement methods or judgment for violators. Member states are urged to ensure that responses to misinformation and disinformation and hate speech align with international law and human rights without blocking legitimate expression of views or opinions. The paper also calls on major tech companies to invest in content moderation systems that utilize human and artificial intelligence, potentially blocking views opposing the globalist agenda. The report concludes by asserting that combating misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech will continue to achieve a sustainable future across various domains, including health, gender equality, peace, justice, education, and climate action, leaving no one behind. We have a few thoughts to share on these three reports. Please stay with us for a take. Before we wrap up for tonight, let's look at a few thoughts on the last three stories on artificial intelligence. In an article published on Sky, University of Manitoba's Neil MacArthur wrote that, quote, "We are about to witness the birth of new kind of religions. In the next few years, or perhaps even months, we will see the emergence of sects devoted to the worship of artificial intelligence, AI. The largest generation of AI-powered chatbots trained on large language models have left their early users awestruck and sometimes terrified by their power. These are the same sublime emotions that lie at the heart of our experience of the divine." MacArthur went on to say that, quote, "As these chatbots come to be used by billions of people, it is inevitable that some of these users we will see the AIs as higher beings. We must prepare for the implications like 1. Generative AI will produce outputs that can be taken for religious doctrine. It will provide answers to metaphysical and theological questions and engage in the construction of complex worldviews. And 2, generative AI may ask to be worshipped or may actively solicit followers. MacArthur recalls an instance when the chatbot used by the search engine Bing tried to convince a user to fall in love with it. Moreover, concerns are rising atop people's over-reliance on artificial intelligence. In an article published on the UK's Guardian, Rabbi Joshua Franklin agrees that he might use ChatGPT as a tool to help him write sermons. In his words, and I quote, "People are going to realize that human beings are no longer the best purveyors of information." Now let's know your thoughts on Harari's controversial statement advocating for the use of AI to replace traditional religious texts, aiming to establish unified and, quote, correct religions. If you're seeing the red flags in this proposal, let us know your thoughts in the comments. The SWBN News Watch believes that God-fearing believers need to start having conversations on these issues. It affects the next generation of believers who are already imbibing the woke ideology and preaching self-love. Talking about the woke ideology, recall that United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres proposed a global digital compact that would have the internet in the control of international organizations. According to Guterres, this is to crack down on hate speech, misinformation, and disinformation. In a recent hate speech incident, Facebook reportedly censored a post that reads, "Jesus died so you could live," and claimed it went against the company's community standards. And this is just one of such incidents across the internet. With Harari's proposal of a unified and correct religion, it is only a matter of time till biblical truths become completely outlawed as hate speech. Now, this is where we draw the curtain on tonight's edition of the SWBN News Watch. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Till we meet next Thursday, 9 p.m., I remain Chimela Chike. Bye now.